spending time with her husband, friends, family, including her 12 grandchildren. In her spare time, she connects and celebrates with the women involved in motorsports, taking you behind the wall about their journey of life, racing, and how they juggle everything to make it all work. Welcome to Racing Girls Rock Podcast. Strap in, window nets up, the pedals are down, and when the green flag drops, we go.
Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with Racing Girls Rock Podcast. And today my guest is Audrey Gerberding. Audrey and I met a few years ago at the PRI show in Indianapolis, and we had lunch together, her and her dad and I. And we've developed a friendship over the course of the last few years. And so it's my honor to have Audrey on the podcast today. So Audrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So Audrey, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you live, your family, that kind of thing. And then after that, I want to know about your racing story. How'd you get started?
Awesome. So I am 14. I live in Rochester, Illinois. I have one brother and I have one dog. Her name is Nilla. She is a cute little lab. I play clarinet in my high school band. This year I will actually be a freshman in high school, so excited for that. Whether that happens, how that happens, I'm not sure. We have been living in Rochester for, I believe, 15 years, which sounds right. So I love Rochester. It's a great little hometown to be in. Everybody knows everybody. They're all super supportive of everything that everybody does. So it's just a fun town to be in, and I love hanging out with my family, doing stuff like that with school. I enjoy being in Rochester.
Okay, that's all. And what's the next biggest town close to you?
Springfield. We're like 5 minutes right out of Springfield.
Right, that's what I thought. So kind of in the middle of Illinois. So
pretty much.
Audrey, how did you get started racing? Why is a young girl like you interested in motorsports instead of playing softball or something like probably most of your friends are doing?
Yeah. Actually, I played soccer for a couple years before I started racing. And my dad had actually had a little bit of history around racing. I'm the first generation actual racer. We went to a quarter midget track, and I saw a bright pink race car and decided that I wanted it and that they were cool. I actually had a buddy that was selling a couple of theirs. We bought theirs. We raced that car for a couple of years, and we figured out that quarter midgets and racing was what we wanted to start with. I've always enjoyed racing. There's some type of thrill that goes with it. I've never been able to place it, whether it's the speed, whether it's the competition, but there's always been some type of thrill, adrenaline, anything that can go with it. And once we raced quarter midgets for, I believe, 2 years, and then we found outlaw carts, which is basically a sprint car that is kiddie-sized, kind of. And it's basically just a go-kart on steroids. And we found the outlaw carts, and for 2 years, we raced quarter midgets and outlaw carts. Then my brother got into quarter midgets, and we went back completely to quarter midgets for him to kind of figure out where he wanted to start. And that was actually the year that we went and did the lap on Indy. The year that I went, set the record for the most cars on Indy at one time. We were at Indy that year. We went to Eldora that year for the four crown race, and had I think a weekend of racing on the little Eldora track that they raced go-karts on, which was really fun. They also had a couple races out in like Arizona or somewhere that we didn't actually go to, but that was the year that USAC did all of their traveling series, and that was definitely a fun year to do stuff. And I'm glad that we went back to quarter midgets that year. I still think of that year as my final year in quarter midgets, because it was so much fun to go and figure out how they did all that. I enjoyed, for that reasoning, I enjoyed going to the big tracks. I was like, yeah, okay, we get to race, but I'm at a big track. That was where I enjoyed going to the big track, and less of the racing, more the experience. And that's why I enjoyed that year so much. And then we moved back to outlaw carts again. We had our first outlaw cart for another year. I believe that was the year that I had championship in that cart. And then we got a newer cart that was a little bit better, a little bit newer, a little bit higher quality. And we raced that for, I think, 1 or 2 years. And then we found the kids mods, which is what we're in now. And the kids mods are basically just a stepping stone for us, as we looked into going straight to like B mods or whatever, and my mom kind of told us no because I wasn't ready for it yet, and I hadn't been in a big car at all. So when we found the kids mods, they are actually an 8 to 16 series, so it's a great series to start kids in. Great to just kind of use as a stepping stone, and it's a full-size car. It's getting me ready for whatever we go into next. At least I will be comfortable with how the car handles, where the tracks are, how the tracks work. And a lot of the reasoning that actually Bob Pierce started this series was to learn where the tracks go on and off at, where the scales are at, where the stuff is on the track, so you're more comfortable with it. And so it's definitely had that gaining factor for me, where I realize now that it is going to have helped me in the long run, learning where all these tracks are. So we actually got Rookie of the Year and second place last year. And this year we are 5 races in. I am 3 for 5 on feature wins. And so I'm hoping to keep that streak alive, but I don't know, whatever is going to happen happens.
Right. So I've watched you this year, and I've enjoyed seeing you in Victory Lane. That made me smile. And that shows that your hard work in the past has paid off, and now you're taking the steps. You're not trying to jump too fast, too quickly, and you realize what you're able to do and be successful as you go along, instead of beating your head against the wall and not enjoying it because it's a struggle. So this is much better, I think, for you. So Audrey, what tracks do you race at?
So actually the Kids Mod Series is a traveling series, so we stay pretty much around Illinois. We run a lot at Macon, Peoria, Lincoln, Jacksonville, Farmer City, Fairbury, Peasley, basically just anywhere around central Illinois. And that was one of the other reasons we got into this car, because locally, where we were about the same amount of time from a lot of those tracks that we would be anywhere else. So this series was definitely that plus for us as well, because of location.
Right. And that's a big deal, because travel is expensive, and you have to figure that in, not just the cost of the car and the gas and the pit passes and all that, but the travel is expensive too. So if you can stay within an hour or two of where you live or around that, that's a benefit of racing that class.
Where we're at right now, my grandparents actually live in Edwardsville, so anytime we go to like Missouri, anytime, we don't have to come all the way home or get a hotel. We can just stop it there and stay the night there. And that's also a bonus, is having somebody kind of around that you can stop and say, hey, I need to spend the night. They're like, go for it. There's a bedroom upstairs.
Right, so, exactly. Plus,
and there's always people that are,
go ahead.
So I enjoy this series. It's definitely fun to be in, and um, I it's I enjoy this because it's so much of a learning curve for everything, and it's been so much of a help for me to do all of this that it's so much easier that now once I move into big cars, then I will have this opportunity to understand where stuff is and how it works.
Right, exactly. And so how long do you think you'll race? So you said this series is till you're 16. Will you stay in this series until
Correct.
16?
I don't know exactly. Dad and I have talked about getting an A mod because I think I'd rather go to A mods and then back to B mods if I do go into something bigger. I'd love to go into an A mod next year. I'd love to stay in the series next year. I don't know. It all depends on what this corona thing brings and how this is all going to work out.
Yeah, exactly, because we don't even know how many more races you're going to get to do. Hopefully, several more. You know,
Yeah.
I said to you earlier, Michigan, we're closed down for racing, so our people have to go to Indiana, which is the closest to race, and that's not even that close. That's a couple hours away.
Yeah.
Audrey, what's your favorite thing about being a race car driver?
That's a hard question. My favorite thing is probably the interaction that I get with people. I always have found that taking my car to car shows or taking my car behind the stands when we're done racing or whatever it might be, it's getting the interaction with the people that I enjoy the most. I enjoy the adrenaline rush of it, but it's the actual getting to meet the people that are cheering for you and making that connection. I enjoy a lot. When we go to car shows, I will always put kids through my car. I think it just makes it that much closer to the kid, where when you go to like some car shows, you can't even touch the car. Where this one, you can climb all over it. You're not going to hurt it. And that's what I've always told people is I enjoy the interaction with people, not necessarily the just me on the track. I would love to go behind the stands every weekend, put kids through my car, pass out hero cards, whatever it might be, and get that interaction with the people, because that's just what I've found to be the most helpful, I guess is the right word for that. Just making that connection, and then when you see somebody, they'll be like, oh, I know you. You came back to the stand, you said hi to me, you let me sit in your car, and I like that. So that's what's been fun.
Yeah, and you know what? Those are going to be your fans for life, Audrey. The ones that you were kind to, that you let sit in the car when you were little, and even their parents, you know, they're going to be your fans, and they're going to cheer for you when you're out there on the racetrack. So I love hearing that. And knowing you, I know that you do love people, and you're not afraid to talk to them. And so that's a good piece of what you're doing.
Yeah. I actually had somebody at a car show I was at last January, before I went to my banquet a couple of years ago. I had a couple of girls that their dad raced, but they came over to my car because it was pink. And they came over, they sat in my car. They didn't want to get into it to start with. And we finally got them like into the car, and they didn't want to get out because then once they got out, their mom came back over to me later and said, thank you so much. Thank you for helping me put them through this. They enjoyed it. They loved having us. And those people have been my fans ever since.
Right.
And that's what I enjoy, is the connection that I make with people to have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That, to me, that's the best part of what I do too, is meeting young gals like you and making we're going to be friends forever, you know, long-term friendships. And that's what it's all about, for sure. So Audrey, are there very many girls that race, against you? And if not, how do the boys treat you?
I'm actually the only girl in my series. The series that I'm in, We only have a couple of cars at the moment, and the rest of them are boys. And they have always been, like, especially last year, I had a couple of kids, the other kids that I was racing with, we actually raced with back in quarter midget. And so we've had that friendship for a while. So when the helmet's off, we're great and friendly, but as soon as the helmet's on, it clicks and it switches. There is no, it's one man for himself once that helmet's on. And I've always found that they're a little bit, like, hesitant to do stuff at the beginning, but then once you, like, become friends with them and realize that you can have a conversation with them, and it becomes a lot easier for them to communicate and, like, handle the situation. There's the kid that's below me in points right now. I feel like he's a brother. I mean, as soon as the helmet's on, it's completely different. But it's the same general, we're friends right up until we're not. And that's how it happens. And I think they definitely are very cautious to start with, but then once it happens, then it flips and they realize that I'm not gonna bite. And
Yeah. Well, number one, the fact that you're doing well and you're beating them this year, but once they know that you're just another race car driver, just like they are, it doesn't matter that you're a girl. You love the same things they love. You want to do the same things they do. And they can find out that guys and gals can be great friends without having any kind of romance involved. And that's a good thing at the track. That's a healthy relationship for you to have with all those kids. So,
and I've always said it, the car doesn't know any different. The car could be bright pink and the car could be bright blue. It doesn't know what color it is. It doesn't know who's driving it. It just knows that it's going left and turning circles. It doesn't know any better.
Exactly.
And I've always stood by that, and people have always asked me, well, how do you deal with it? The car doesn't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
We're all the same at the end of the day.
Exactly. So what's your favorite track to race at?
My favorite track probably to race at that I have raced at is probably Peoria.
Okay.
I enjoy Peoria because I enjoy little rinky-dinky tracks like that have a lot of banking. That's probably my favorite track to race at.
So what's your favorite track to go watch a race?
Probably, I don't know.
Have you been to Daytona or Chicagoland, any of the big
I have
tracks?
not been to Daytona. I've been to Chicagoland, I've been to Gateway at St. Louis. There's been a couple other tracks like that. Probably my favorite dirt track to go race at is probably Spoon River because of the way that those cars handle around there, especially like the big super late models. Mm-hmm. I enjoy watching those big cars race just for the fun of it and watching people flinch when they get dirt in their face.
So that's funny you mentioned Spoon River because Audrey, you know my son raced years and years ago, and when he first started racing, we lived in Illinois. We lived near Macomb, Illinois, and that's where he started racing, was in Macomb. But he went to Spoon River a couple of different times to race, and I actually have been to that track, and my son raced there. So that's kind of interesting that you mentioned that track. Yeah. I had forgotten about Spoon River, but that's kind of cool. So I
haven't been to Spoon River. It's probably been at least 3 years.
Okay. So what's your goal for racing? What do you want to do down the road? Do you want to stay in it? Do you want to, what's your, what do you like to do besides racing? Are you going to have a career that involves motorsports, or what are you thinking?
I would absolutely love to be in a driver's seat for the rest of my life. I know that is probably not going to happen, but as long as I am around racing with some type of career, engineering, motorsports, something around racing, I am completely content with that. I would love to be in a driver's seat, but I know it's probably not going to happen. So for as long as I can stay around racing, I will. And if I make a career out of that, great. That'd be even better.
Okay. So, there's so many opportunities, and I know you have been around me enough to know we've talked about this before. There's so many opportunities to be involved in motorsports in some way and not be the famous driver. You can still drive and race at your local tracks or wherever you want to go, even if you're not on the NASCAR circuit or whatever. But there's so many other amazing opportunities to be involved in motorsports. Like, I can see you being in promotions or something someday,
Yeah.
or being on the grid and interviewing people, because I can just see that would be something that you would enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So what are some other things that you enjoy that might involve motorsports besides driving?
I'm a very, very hands-on person. I would love to be in a shop doing something. And that's what I've always said is I would love to be in an engineering something to be around racing. And whether that's being a tire changer or whether that's putting body panels on a car during the week, I don't care. As long as I'm in the shop, I would love to be in that position, but I'm pretty good at marketing, and I'm okay with some of the interviewing stuff, and that's all stuff that I could always get better at, but I'm willing to learn and make that happen. If that's going to put me around racing, I am okay learning how to do that.
Yeah, because you're only, how old are you now? 13? How old are you, Audrey?
14, yep.
14, yeah, 14. So you're only 14 years old, and think of all the
14.
years you got ahead of you to learn all of that and get better at all the things that you want to do. So you've got a long time ahead of you to master whatever you want to do. So I want to ask you about your parents.
Yeah.
Does your mom ever get nervous or worried when you're driving, or your dad, or are they pretty calm?
To begin with, they were both pretty nervous about it, but I think now that they've been around it so much, there's still moments that it's like, oh, there's a wreck, or oh, there's something that happened. But at this point, they know that everything's going to be okay. And I'm the type of driver that I'm very aware of what's going on. So at this point, I don't think they're nervous very much at all, but that's only because they've been around it long enough that it has been put in their brain that everything will be okay and that I will be okay. Like, when we first started quarter midgets and stuff, my mom was always the first one to check my safety gear, always the first one to check that the car was safe. That's always how it's been. But that has gotten better as it has gone on because they've been around it enough to learn that I'm okay and not going to kill myself
or get
racing.
hurt
or get hurt or whatever it is.
Right. And you're not going to do anything dumb to get yourself in a situation that's going to hurt if you can help it, that's for sure. So Audrey,
right,
I know that you love going to PRI.
Yeah, if it happens.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I do love PRI. You love going to PRI. What is it about going to, and then for those people who don't know what that is, Performance Racing Industries, the trade show in Indianapolis, always, I believe it's always the first or second weekend in December. What is it about going there that you enjoy?
I enjoy going to PRI for many reasons. I have met so many amazing people through PRI. Like, I met you through PRI, and that was one of probably the best connections that I've made in a long time. I've met so many amazing people that have gotten me so much farther because I've gone. And everybody always tells me, oh, you're going to miss school, or you're going to miss school. Well, yeah, I'm going to miss school, but this is where I'm going with my life. So at some point, I'm going to learn stuff here that I wouldn't in school. And yeah, that's going to happen. But I enjoy going to PRI a lot for I get to meet new people, I get to make new connections. Like last year at PRI, I took some products from one of my sponsors to PRI, and I got some stuff from a different company out of PRI because I went back to them and I said thank you. And that's what I've always said is people have always asked me is how do you get so many great sponsors? It's because I go back and thank them and make them feel like they've gotten something. And that's what I've done at PRI, and that's what I plan to keep doing at PRI is making those connections, which I think is going to be good for me in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do remember the first time I met you, of course, that was 3 or 4 years ago now. And you said one of the things you enjoyed the most was that it was something that you and your dad always got to do. Now, last year, your mom had to step in and bring you, but it's something you get to do with your parent, a parent or both, that that's special, and it's a special weekend. And so I'm not going to have a booth there this year, but I am going to be there. So we'll see each other there this year. So yeah.
And that's what I've made so many amazing connections through PRI. It's just been great to have that opportunity to be able to go to PRI. Like last year, my mom had to step in and go because my dad had some training for his union stuff. But I've always had the opportunity to go or find some way to get there because somebody's going. And I think that has been very helpful to me in making connections, in helping me make decisions about how to do something or whatever it might be. You go and you think back and you're like, okay, that person did that and that worked well. And so that's how I'm going to do that. And that's how PRI has always helped me.
Right. Plus they have good classes or sessions, whatever you want to call them. And I know you attend those. And so that's always the thing that is also good at PRI for people is that you can attend different sessions on things that you're interested in, and you can always learn more. So Audrey,
they have so many great seminars and all the great seminars and everything. Like I've gone to the Women in Motorsports seminar for 4 or 5 years that I've gone, and it has helped me learn so much more.
Yeah. That's awesome. So Audrey, I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to share, either about yourself or your car? Do you want to talk about your sponsors or anything that I haven't asked you about?
So this year we have actually gained a couple new sponsors. This year we added Cozy Dog Drive-In, Beginning Steps. We added Shift Up Now this year because I got into their ambassador program this year. We added, who else did we add? I'm trying to think. Who else did we add? We added our new hooker harnesses. Our new hooker harness belts are amazing. They are bright pink, so they go with everything. We put SPA Technique on there for our fire suppression. Who else did we add? I'm trying to think.
You have what I can see on the picture, Piggy Bank Pond.
Yep, Piggy Bank, Lake Springfield Marina, Amsoil, Impact. Who else? I'm trying to think.
That's a lot of sponsors for a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah. It is. And we actually added this year, we took our car kind of to a different theme this year because we added Cozy Dog Drive-In and we added Motorhead. They're all based on Route 66 stuff. And so as we were thinking about it, we just decided that we're going to create a wrap for our design for our car that is completely Route 66 themed. So I got all the maps, everything that Bob Waldmeyer drew for Route 66. I have access to all of that through Cozy Dog. And so we've taken our car and made it completely Route 66 themed, which is super cool.
That's very cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. So Audrey, I am so proud of you. I just want you to know you've done so well this year. I see you growing up in front of my eyes, and I see you getting more mature, and I see that your driving is getting better and better all the time too. So I'm proud to call you my friend, you and your family, and you know I'm always a big supporter of you. So I want to thank you for taking time today to be on the podcast. Is there anything else that you would like to share or say?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot today about you and your...
We've got it all covered.
Yeah, we've got it all covered. That's right. So, all right then. Well, I'm just going to thank you again for being on, and I'm going to be watching you the rest of the season. And gosh, I hope I can get to see you race one of these days. If the COVID and all that gets straightened around, we're going to have to come to the track that's closer towards Michigan, and I'll come and watch a race.
Yes.
How's that?
Yep.
That would be great. All right, Audrey, thank you.
Awesome.
Spending time with her husband, friends, family, including her 12 grandchildren. In her spare time, she connects and celebrates with the women involved in motorsports, taking you behind the wall about their journey of life, racing, and how they juggle everything to make it all work. Welcome to Racing Girls Rock Podcast. Strap in, window nets up, the pedals are down, and when the green flag drops, we go.